Hi guys, it's Luetin here, and I'm joined today by RivalXfactor. I'm going to be talking about pricing in games. There's been a lot of talk the last few days about prices in games and how they could be more expensive with the next gen systems, so we're going to be talking a little bit around that. But I'm going to start off, there was an interesting piece that I found earlier, and it's by Hideo Kojima, who obviously created and made the Metal Gear Solid games. Now he has an interesting idea around these kind of the fact that basically game production prices are going up. It's costing so much to produce these large-scale AAA games now because of all the processes involved. And what he said is that there's a different way of tackling the problems. He says that you could look at it something more akin to a TV series where you use a pilot episode of a game to test the waters before you jump completely into a project. He said you could put something out that can be distributed via download channels so that the player can try out before production continues. Something like that wouldn't take long to create, maybe a year, and if it's successful then you can continue. So the idea that when people are starting to push these things forward, they would put like a test out there, see whether people are really feeling it, and if it is, then they can go forward and invest all this kind of cash. It'll be safer for companies. But does that mean that we're going to lose some really great titles if people are taking that process on board? And I think the other thing that we're going to be thinking about today as well is the idea that, these prices have gone up a lot. And they're sort of talking about $70 for a title now. But is it gonna, is the market changing? Is the way that people are playing changing? Xfactor, what do you think about that?
Well, let's first talk about this. A lot of these major companies that we're referring to, such as EA, they're publicly traded commodities. The pressure to be profitable is on them 24/7. And at the end of the day, to them, in the board meetings, to the stockholders, it's about profit. So here's the question. Is it the good money trying to pay for the bad? Yeah. For every title that fails, you have to cover that and then some. You can't lose those profit margins. So let's talk about Medal of Honor Warfighter. That game had horrible sales. What do you think they had invested in that for production, development, marketing, right? Yeah. And supporting the game for the first 6 months? How many hundreds of millions? Was it 100 million? Was it 150 million? So not only are you out your original investment, which if you're a company like EA, you're paying as you go. You're paying these employees every single week or bi-weekly. You're out that money. Production of the game, you're out that money. So when it finally launches, you hope to recoup. And when you recoup 5 to 10% of that, where do you cover up the ground? This is marketing 101. This is sales 101. If you have something stinking it up, that margin is going to get diverted someplace else more than likely. So if you have other product lines out there, guess what? Everybody underneath that family is paying an extra $1 or $2 per title. Yeah. So you've got that whole thing, which I think is a major problem. We have EA's recent stint with SimCity, which you couldn't play the game for 3 to 4 days. That was a problem. Now the game, people are finding out that the AI is broken. And I play this game. I like it, but it is buggy as heck. So that is affecting current sales of that game. They had a lot of sales, but it's affecting potential sales. So the question is, what do these developers do to potentially change their behavioral patterns and the way that they service the community to make their company more profitable? I believe the comments that you made are a great start, but I also believe community feedback is a way to lead your company to profitability as long as you have a good base product.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's another point that actually Kojima made. He says he reckons that the development of next-generation games will include a social aspect, that is, a back and forth between creators and customers. He says you'll get user feedback, and I think there'll be this back and forth between users and creators. Now, Level and me spoke about this only the other day when we were talking about MMO games and kind of free-to-play games. We were talking about how free-to-play games almost require that relationship to go on.
Look
because
at Plant Side.
Yeah,
they have
it's exactly
a roadmap.
like that. Yeah,
they literally give you a roadmap of what's to come, and you get to vote on it, express your opinions, and see it change and manipulate before your eyes. You want to have an idea of where the direction of the game you're playing is right now, you can check it out, then influence it. That's the future for gaming, and it should be, because we're the ones that spend the money and, more importantly, the time. Now, the question is, will we buy the next installment? And that depends on how good this installment was, the community interaction, the community support, and the money in our pockets at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, definitely. And I think the landscape of gaming is really changing. When you look at these things like price increases and in complete, sort of the business model of certain games, like we're looking at free to play versus standalone games and so on and so on, and then how that relates to kind of user feedback. The whole thing is changing, and again, like me and Level said in this other video, I think certain developers and publishers, they really are going to have to go in that direction of kind of interacting with communities more and more if they really want to kind of be successful. Sony are really pushing it. Sony are going in the right direction. I think they've kind of got on board with it, and they've said, yeah, this is, they can see. Sony have always been very good at kind of innovating and looking ahead and thinking, yeah, this is where it's going,
look
and we'll
what
get
they're
on board
doing
with it.
With the PlayStation 4. They're making it community-based with the ability to share to Twitch or Twitter or stream with the push of a button. They understand the importance of community support, fan bases, things of that nature, because that's what pushes a game.
Yeah,
is
definitely.
the community and the ability to share. You've been doing this YouTube thing for a while. It's our ability to tell our stories and share our experiences, which the community enjoys.
It's already happening. I mean, I got asked to go down to EA in London to try out Crysis 3 before it came out, so I got to play the game a week before it came out. They allowed me to record footage. I went back home, I made a video for them, I posted it up, they put it on EA, they put it on the Crysis 3 website. That video got 56,000 views, which is excellent for my channel when you consider the kind of level that I'm at. Yeah, but you see, it was great marketing for them as well, because that video gave a really good overview of everything. It showed everything. I kind of discussed things, and I had a couple of feedback from the guys down there saying that they really loved it. Good job. And
you get to pre-hype the game. They get a guy who can spread the word, good, bad, or otherwise, because there is no such thing as bad marketing, bad press, I should say, to hype the game and put eyes on it before it's even exposed to the masses.
Exactly.
And that's an excellent thing.
And then imagine that, they can do this more, like we're talking. A lot of people love the idea of beta games, that you can put out a beta, people can test it, come back, give feedback. Now, if they do start to go more towards this pilot idea, they put out something and they, well ahead of time and say, we're working on this game, what do you think about it? That's so much, constructive feedback for them at that stage, whether they decide to proceed or not. That's such a constructive element, because they can really sort of take things on board, and, maybe they had some ideas and they, that they were going to run with, and then people were really not feeling it, and they kind of go, wow, actually, let's drop that and go in this direction. It could be the difference between a success or failure for a game, and that's a big deal. Like we say, for publishers, if they can ensure at that early stage that the game is going in the right direction, that's going to make a big difference for them in terms of profitability.
Yeah, and it's limiting their loss. It's called limiting liability. And that's what you worry about when you get big in the business world is, hey, what can I do to prevent myself from losing a ton of money in one shot? The other thing that PlayStation's doing is you get to demo the full game before you buy it. Not some chopped down quarter of a game or a quick run through in a single player mode. You get all hands on. It's probably going to have some sort of time limitation, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
like you get to 2 hours to play as much as you want. I don't know yet, but that's a good idea.
It's unbelievable. I mean,
so now you're not out $70 or $60 and say, my God, this game's not for me. This isn't my genre. I don't like shooters. I don't like role-playing games. It's not me. Now you get to figure out if it is for you before you plunk down potentially some major cash.
It's a really brave thing, but it's almost an amazing. I almost, like, when they said this, when they announced it at the thing, I couldn't believe it. Like, it's absolutely amazing that they've decided to go down this route, because we were only literally talking the day before about how it's frustrating that you don't get so many demos now, you can't test out games. If games cost so much, like, how are you going to be sure that you want to buy that game? And I think what Sony are banking on is that by giving people this feature, it's going to open up people to so many games that they never knew, because when you look online at the PSN store or anything like this now, or you go to Steam or anything, there's loads of games, but all you've got to go by is other people's reviews, and a lot of games don't have demos. By putting this feature in, they are going to allow people to test and try out things that they maybe never would have. They maybe see it in the store and they think, hey, that sounds kind of cool, but there's no demo and it costs me like £10-15. I don't want to bother trying it out because it's going to be wasted money. But now, I think they really are I think they're onto something here. I think this is going to be big for them.
And the other thing is reviewing a product, reviewing a game. Your review style is different from mine, which is different from Levels, and we are in tune with different aspects of games.
Yeah.
Some people like the pretty fancy graphics. That's not so important for me. I want to see the actual mechanics of the gunplay.
Yeah.
I want to see recoil patterns and how people interact, the hit registry, the client side aspects of the game. Those are what I care about, right? Which most people don't. Maybe 5% of the people in the Battlefield world would say that's my number one concern, right? Competitive stuff. And I'm going to have a different review based on that. So mine might not truly reflect what the entire game is about, right? And yours might say, hey, this game is amazing. It's a ton of fun. The graphics are superb. The gunplay is pretty good. You're going to cover a lot more ground than I'm going to cover is basically what I'm going to say.
That's what's so good about YouTube and about YouTube producers as well, is that when people can find sort of 5, 6, I mean, I know that out of the group of us, there must be kind of 6, 7 to 10 really great kind of Battlefield producers who sort of cover all different aspects. Like Daskro is great. He covers a completely different angle. Daskro's kind of background is exceptionally different. Level's background is good. Yeah,
Daskro's created his own niche with the live coverages, the streaming, the technology behind it. There's some really cool stuff that he's doing, not to mention the green screen head of his.
Yeah, it's epic. Every time I go on the channel, it just pops up there, you know?
I said, you know the old Batman logo back in the days, how it would spin and get really small then really big on the screen? I want him to do that with his head one of these times, like the Batmobile symbol, and just disappear into a corner.
That would be amazing. But it's so good, and that's what's so good for these companies, if they can actually get on board with the YouTube thing. And I'll tell you something else that I think would be really good. I have asked about this before, because when I went down to EA and I talked to the guys, and I said, do any of you companies do kind of whitelisting for people on YouTube? So when they know that there's a good producer, good quality, it covers their games, whitelist them for YouTube, so they don't have any more content matching crap. They can just put games out there, they can put content, they don't have to worry about that stuff, and they know, they trust them that they can get things. I think that would be another good step for publishers, to be getting in contact with people that they see on YouTube who actually put out constructive, intelligent content. But it's all, bringing it back on topic, it's all part of this kind of movement forward and the pricing of games. But I say, to bring it back, do you think that these kind of price increases for games, do you think that's going to have a negative or positive effect? Do you think it's kind of the way forward?
Here's what we see. We see a fledgling number of video game sales, period. The industry goes through this ebb of flow of growth and shrinking. The question is, for the think tanks at these large corporations, is they've already done the math. They're going for total sales and copies sold. They're tweaking this 2-bit variable when it comes to pricing this thing out. If they're jacking games to $70, they believe it's not going to affect their overall sales, because if it did, they would drop that maybe $5 and make more money in the long run, right? Because it's about this perfect relationship. Could they sell Battlefield 4 at Battlefield 4 at $10 and be profitable? Yes. But what are people willing to pay for that title based on the success of Battlefield 3? Yeah. I guarantee you that's a $60 to $70 banger when it comes out this winter.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's one of these things where people will gripe about it. People will moan about it. They'll go, oh, games are too expensive, blah, 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 blah. It'll come out, they'll buy it, guaranteed. Guaranteed.
Now, here's what's going to happen. Now you have the old motto, competition breeds success. So what happens, let's say an average gamer had a couple $100 in their piggy bank for games for the year, right? They say, okay, I'm buying 5 titles. I've only got this amount of money, but now I can only afford 4. What you're going to see now is you're going to see the strong survive and the weak perish. Because those games that people would have bought with that extra $30, $40 in their pocket, they might not be able to do anymore. Or you're going to see, this is a potential too, the rise of indie games again through Steam, through other sales tools that they're selling it for $5 to $10. Like, for instance, when this EA SimCity crisis hit, there's a game called Typico or something like that. Looked amazing. Same as SimCity, but more detailed. They sold it for $10.
I'll tell you as well, today, Fast and Light was on sale. Fast and Light you could download from their website, $3.99.
Jeez.
You know, and that game is epic. It's like one of the best, sort of small download games, indie games that there is at the moment. You know, it's awesome. I mean, Journey was a classic game, an amazing game that came out for PS3 only, and it's been accoladed, it's been given loads of awards, but it didn't do that well. It was an amazing game. It was beautiful, artistic. It was really soulful.
And then you see games that get horrible reviews that do phenomenal.
It's weird. It's really weird. I mean, when you look at all the crap and negativity around Call of Duty, for example, all the bitching and blah blah blah, it's still going to sell a ton of copies. People don't care. They'll just buy it.
Here's why. It was popular. It still is popular, and it has a compressed skill set demand. That's it. It's easy to use. You can pick it up and be relatively decent at it in a couple days.
Exactly.
Now, for every Call of Duty player I've ever talked to personally, they say, wow, Battlefield's a jump. That's a skill set jump, because now they need to learn to control recoil, burst fire guns, and deal with things such as helicopters, jets, and anything else that can kill you from above or around you that you never had to worry about before.
It always amuses me when I bump into people and they be like, "Oh yeah, I don't use vehicles because I'm rubbish in them." It's like half the game. You just lost half the game right there.
It's just like me. I never flew before. I'm just now finally starting to fly. I'm still pretty bad. But I've managed to get a couple kills here and there and pull out some nice moments that made me proud and said, Why haven't I done this sooner?
I was really concerned about that as well, I have to say. I was really concerned about air
failure.
superiority. Yeah, well, I mean, I used to be a moderate pilot, and then recently I found it really hard because I haven't done it for ages. And then air superiority, I was thinking, oh my Christ, I'm going to be like, go to hell here. But actually, it wasn't too bad. I was surprised. There was enough balance between awful and good players that you could, if you're in the middle, you could manage yourself. So it was not too bad.
Or you're like me, and you chase after all the bad players first and just know you're going to die. But that's something else that, this is another chat, but there needs to be a patch for this game because blow radar's broken. Flares and ECM seem to be really broken right now. So
don't talk to me. Don't talk to me about ECM and flares. Trust me, I've covered that more than anybody else has ever covered it.
I remember your video way back in the day, and I load in, and somebody asked me, "Hey, Xfactor, I noticed you hadn't played this mode yet, air superiority." And my comment was, "Oh, you mean broken ECM flare beep beep mode?"
Yeah, seriously.
And that was my. I went 9-3. And I died to heat seekers every time, and flares never worked.
I was just pleased when my ECM actually deflected a missile the other day. Couldn't believe it. I was flying in a circle, popped ECM, and then it was like beep beep beep. One hit me, the other one flew off. I was like, oh my god, ECM worked for jets. It's just unbelievable moment.
I haven't had it work. I went back to flares, then to have them bug out. Like I said, I played one round.
You just have to.
3 times.
To use ECM, it's better, I think, generally, but you have to kind of pop it and then go into hard spiral spin, and then hopefully, if they still follow you, you can kind of break out and get a natural sort of loss of them anyway. So
I saw one last comment. I saw 3-way enemy crash last night.
Nice one.
Yeah, it was nice. So they're all yelling in chat like it was somebody from our team. No, it was their own teammates.
Okay, guys, so today we've been talking about prices of games, the increasing price of games, different game models, and where we're generally going to in the future. What do you think? Are you going to be prepared to pay extra for this price? Do you think it's a good thing, bad thing? And do you want to have this kind of future conversation with developers? Are you worried perhaps that there's only going to be a sort of certain minority of people who actually have this conversation with developers, producers, and then perhaps the majority of people maybe not going to have their say enough? Where are they going to get this feedback from? Where are they going to get this demand from? Let us know in the comments. Pleased to hear what you think. Thanks for watching, guys. See you for some more Battlefield 3 discussions and videos very, very soon.